believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing, you. I believe in miracles.
This is the latest and last Renault Zoe ZE50 R135 GT. Possibly the most important electric car of the last decade, and I've been driving it for a week. Here are my thoughts. Watch and enjoy the video. Quick pause, just to let you know that on my last video, the Volkswagen ID Buzz Scooby-Doo video, only 3.4% of you were subscribed when you watched it. Please consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell, and that way you'll never miss out when I upload new content. There have been 3 Renault Zoes in the last 10 years. This is the latest one, the ZE50. Now it comes in 2 trims. One's Techno for $29,995 or Iconic starting at $31,995, and you want the Iconic one like this. And the Iconic needs to be the R135 and not the R1110, because if it's the R1110, it doesn't come with DC rapid charging. You have to add it on as a £750 optional extra. Renault, don't do that. All EVs should have rapid charging, and they all do, I'm pretty sure. If you know of one that doesn't, pop it in the comments below. This Zoe has a single front electric motor developing 134 horsepower. It takes you from 0 to 60 in 8.1 seconds and 60 to 0 in much less than that. It's got a 52 kilowatt hour battery, which gives 239 miles WLTP. I reckon you could do more. It optionally can charge 50 kilowatt DC. This one can, not all of them can, but do check. And also all Renault Zoes, that's all of them, can charge on 22 kilowatt AC. That's phenomenal. I'll explain about that in a bit. The key fob's got the usual buttons, and as you approach the car, it unlocks. When you sit in the car, it greets you. It's kind of cool. The first few times watching the welcome sequence is nice. You can actually turn this off, so when you're in own, you don't need to sit and watch this each time. Where have I heard that before? Do you know electric vehicles are actually powered by YouTube subscribers? You know what to do. You might remember the first season of Game of Thrones, which premiered. Well, that's around the time the Renault Zoe launched, which, as we all know now, is really old news. It launched such a long time ago. Is it still good now that there are competitors on the market? Things like Peugeot's E208, which arguably is a little bit more refined and comes with a lot more options as standard. All of the trims of the Renault Zoe can charge at 22 kilowatt. This means you can fill the car in just a couple of hours at home if you've got 3-phase. This car is really familiar, I think, to people who are used to driving internal combustion engine vehicles. To start the car, you have to press a button that says Start Engine. And to put the car in drive, you pull the gear stick back to drive, but it has D or B. B for engine braking, or as Renault and Nissan like to call it, B, which gives you that extra regen. So you've got 2 options for regen, D and B. You pretty much want to drive in B all the time. It doesn't have a regen quite strong enough for permanent 1-pedal driving. And then down here we've got wireless charging, and here is the cup holders, not sponsored, cup holders. The car is very, very familiar. It's very, very comfortable and very, very easy to drive, even on these badly maintained Isle of Man roads. The seating position is quite high and cannot be adjusted. You are going to sit this high, and I'm 5'11", and my head's maybe a couple of inches off the roof lining. You want to check, if you're any taller than me, if you can fit comfortably in the Zoe. But if you can, you're going to be rewarded with a nice, tall driving position, which is kind of as tall as a Renault Kangoo or other small vans or crossovers. You can see where the car limits are from the front and the rear, especially through the rear view mirror, which shows you a really good view of what's behind you. Something you don't get quite often in modern cars, which frankly look a little bit like staring out of a small tank slit when you look out the rear view mirror. So the car's interface is primarily split between 2 screens. You've got this main dash screen in the middle, which is mostly your sat-nav and infotainment, and you've got a dash in front of you, which gives you a fantastic clear screen. Display in the dash is super high resolution, and very, very colourful. And if anything, the font is a little bit small, but other than that, it's very, very nice and clear. Okay, so the car is very, very easy to drive, very comfortable and incredibly responsive, just like most electric vehicles are these days, with the instant torque available. But you'll find that the car at motorway speed does tend to run out of puff when you get above 45 or so miles an hour. But 0 to 30 is very, very quick and rapid, especially if you have the 135 horsepower version. So though the Renault Zoe doesn't have a huge amount of power at high speed, it is very sprightly like this. So if you just need to nip around here and get from 0 to 30, you can do it really easily. The car will accelerate all the way up to 89 miles an hour, and you shouldn't be doing more than that. Nobody watching this channel is breaking the law, so no one will go faster. But here on the Isle of Man, we can go a tiny bit quicker, and I can assure you that 89 miles per hour is reachable, but you wouldn't want to drive at 89 miles an hour for very long because you get quite a bit of wind and road noise that intrudes the cabin.
I was one of the lonely people.
So, moving on. The Zoe, like most electric vehicles, is really, really, really quiet. And that means when you're coming up upon pedestrians and cyclists, they may not necessarily hear you. So this car is equipped with a pedestrian warning speaker that emits a kind of like a choral, a Gregorian chant below 20 miles per hour, just to let them know that there's a fleet of monks approaching them quite rapidly. There's a button here to turn the Gregorian chant off. If you want to sneak up on people, you can do that. The seats themselves are pretty comfortable. You could ride in here quite well as a 5'11" or maybe even a 6-foot adult, but not for long journeys, I feel. These headrests, unfortunately, block out because they're completely conjoined. They kind of block out your view. It's possible a child could complain about being motion sick. This seat is also quite far forward. This seat here is in my normal driving position, and it's doable, but it's, I mean, my knees are actually in the seat, which is, it does feel a little bit claustrophobic in here. But in the middle, we do have a couple of USB ports to keep kids entertained. It's quite good. These are two USB-A ports, but they're USB-A ports, and again in the front we have a couple of USB-A ports as well. There they are. We do have an electric window control, and it slides all the way down, which is good. This space in here, it's not really large enough for a water bottle. It's pretty thin, but you can put, say, an A5 notebook in there. But that's about it. I do feel like they could have made that a little bit deeper. It sounds a bit hollow. It sounds like possibly that could have gone back a bit, you know, and actually put a water bottle holder in there. But otherwise, it's quite comfortable. There's a very clever mechanism here for the rear seats. You can pull that down here, and that forms a seat belt using these two straps. That's a pretty clever mechanism, and it's out of the way, which is great. So there's no strap in the way. And now we're going to go and check out the boot. The Renault Zoe ZE50's boot space is mildly disappointing. So you do have 338 litres of space, which is plenty for all your shopping, bit of luggage, that sort of thing. But in the back here, you've got bare metal. That's going to get scratched up and possibly a bit rusty after it gets damaged by things like strollers, if you put them in the back. You've got also a lip on the front edge as well, just underneath the seats. But if the seats go down, you do get over 1,000 litres of storage. So you could do big tip runs and things in the car if you put the rear seats down. The Renault Zoe is fantastic for this kind of thing. When you've got some parking on the side of the road with a really big vehicle, you can't squeeze through in anything else. This is perfect. This car has been designed by the French for getting around tight medieval towns. Works fantastically in small, tight spaces. Brilliant. Well done, Renault. Okay, here it comes. So have a cup of tea, sit down, and let's talk about something called Euro NCAP. So Euro NCAP is the automotive safety testing body for cars sold in Europe. And 2 years ago, in 2021, they assessed the Renault Zoe as having 0 stars out of a possible 5. That's not great, but I'd like to share with you a bit of context, so just stick around for a moment.
0 points.
The original Zoe was rated 5 stars by Euro NCAP in 2013, So what's going on? I sent this message to Renault, but they one-ticked me. How could it be that such a well-rated vehicle in 2013 could be reviewed so badly 8 years later? In an official statement, Renault state that models of cars will lose stars over time as NCAP firm up the safety requirements. They go on to say that there have been 5 changes, and each time models of cars typically lose 2 stars. Whilst it's true that NCAP have added additional requirements 5 times between the 2 tests for the Zoe, Renault changed something too. According to NCAP, Renault removed part of the airbags for the front passenger and driver, which they really took exception to. The removal of a safety feature, which might not have been present in cars of that era, really seems to have upset NCAP, and that seems to be why they rated it 0 stars. While reflecting on this segment, I thought I'd take a drive along Douglas Prom and compare the Zoe to other models of cars, see which is kind of safer. Is the Zoe unsafe now? No, I don't think it is. I think it's fine.
Yep. Right, so talking about Euro NCAP 5-star according to the current methodology, the Astra would fail. What the hell is that? That Zafira limo would definitely fail. This Vauxhall would fail, that Mini would fail, that Nissan would fail, that Toyota Avensis there would fail, that Clio would fail, these Fiestas would fail, that Peugeot 206, that Peugeot 207 would fail, that Ford would fail, that Ford Focus would fail, that 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 would fail, they would all fail. So let's not call it, oh, the Renault Zoe's got 0 stars in NCAP. That's not looking at the whole picture. Those motorcycles would definitely fail. None of them would meet the required standard for the 2011 Euro NCAP. All these cars here are less safe than this one. All of them. Every single, except for the Golf. Keep going. All of these cars, maybe the Porsche Carrera is quite good. We'll just keep...
I honestly believe if it wasn't for Renault's Zoes, all 3 of them, then we wouldn't have the amazing variety of electric vehicles to choose from that we have today. Hopefully you get my point. The car isn't inherently unsafe, it's actually pretty damn safe, but Renault, they kind of do need a slap on the wrist, and hopefully they'll do better in the future. Alright, so let's go back. Who is this car for then? Who is ideal for the Renault Zoe? Well, I think this is a car that anyone can drive. It doesn't require an extensive handover reading the manuals. It's got easy controls, lovely driving position, very easy to handle, easy to park, easy to live with, super cheap to run. These cars were very common on the NHS, this is the UK NHS salary sacrifice scheme. So there should be tons of them available second-hand, either now or very, very soon. If you're buying second-hand, make sure it's got CCS rapid charging. But all of them are fantastic, easy to live with, very cheap to run cars. I can really recommend them. Just look beyond the headlines and go and test drive one yourself. This review car was kindly provided by Motor Mall on Cool Road. I tried to keep this as impartial and balanced as possible, give you my actual thoughts, completely unfiltered. I hope you've appreciated that, and if you have, please give me a like on the video. A comment down below helps too. Do you have a Renault Zoe? Would you consider one? Let me know. Please also consider maybe subscribing, hitting the like bell, that's the dingy bell which will pop the video in your notifications when I upload the next one so you don't miss out. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
Where you from? You sexy thing, you.